Richard Dawkins in The God Delusion says that the 4 New Testament Gospels were chosen more or less arbitrarily out of a whole list of at least a dozen other Gospels. How credible is that claim? Because it's quite widespread nowadays.
Well, part of it, of course, depends on where you want to date these all these various Gospels. As you rightly say, there are more and more people focusing attention on non-canonical Gospels. But the question is, what is the dating of these Gospels, and to what extent are they dependent on the canonical Gospels, and so forth. But I think here we have to go back to the fact that the original Gospels, that is to say the 4 canonical Gospels, are in fact closely connected with the apostles and the co-workers of the apostles. So you have Matthew, for example, one of the apostles. You have John, one of the apostles. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Gospels as we have them are written by Matthew and John, but they, at least their authority lies behind these documents. Otherwise, the names would not be there. And you have then Mark relying on the authority of Peter, and then you have Luke associated with Paul by virtue of traveling with Paul as his companion. So you have the canonical Gospels are related to this apostolic core, this core of apostolic witnesses, which gives them this uniqueness over against other Gospels, later Gospels, which are arising in other contexts and with other influences. As you know, the apocryphal Gospels often highly influenced by Gnosticism, which gives them quite a different take on the story of Jesus.
So the early church, 2nd and 3rd centuries, you're saying looked back beyond these other Gospels to the earliest, the most primitive and therefore authoritative Gospels. Is that an accurate account?
Yes, I think that's right. That's correct. And the reason is, again, the connection with the authorship and the core of the authority.
What about the rest of the New Testament then? The letters of Paul, the letters of John, how did they come to be regarded as authoritative?
Well, Paul is the apostle extraordinary. He was not one of the 12, and his whole life he has to defend against that fact. He has to indicate that he is special, and he was special. But the writings of the New Testament outside of the Gospels, again, rely on either apostolic authority or the authority of a co-worker or an associate of the apostles. So I would say that in the case of documents we don't know the authorship of, for example, Hebrews, whoever wrote Hebrews was either an apostle or a co-worker of an apostle, because I think that's the main criterion of canonicity, is this apostolic authority.
So how accurate is the story that the canon, the New Testament books, were just put together in the 4th century, man-made, a political agenda behind it?
No, the formation of the canon is a long historical process, and you already have the canon in formation at the end of the 1st century. For example, I think that the letters of Paul are collected quite early, already in 80, in the year 80, 85, before 1st Clement. Pauline letters are seen to be canonical, seen to be authoritative, and are separated from all other writings and become one part of the canon. And the same thing is true of the Gospels. They begin to emerge. These 4 Gospels we've been talking about begin to emerge as canonically authoritative in the process of the 2nd century. So the canon doesn't happen just as one decision made in the 4th century. It happens as a historical process where the Church is evaluating the testimony about the authenticity of these documents, their apostolic connections, and on the basis of that then concluding that these documents should be a part of the canon. So already with Marcion in the middle of the 2nd century, the canon question is forced upon the Church, because Marcion comes up with an abbreviated canon of 1 Gospel, Luke, heavily edited, and 10 letters of Paul. And then that says to the Orthodox Church, Marcion was a Gnostic, says to the Orthodox Church, we need to work on the canon, and we know more writings than Marcion has accepted, and so you have the canon getting to be formed already then. And then it comes only to its climax or conclusion in the 4th century.
Marcion wasn't really motivated by preserving what was apostolic. He's got quite an anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic agenda going on, it seems.
Yes, he does. Unfortunately, Marcion was anti-Jewish, and edited out of Luke, for example, everything that was Jewish, and even out of the Pauline letters, and regarded it was this characteristic idea that that the Gnostics had, that the God of the Old Testament was a different God from the God of the New Testament, and so you have something quite different going on in the New Testament.